Commander Jake Harrison looked out at the stars from the bridge of the Terra Nova. 8 months had passed since they left Earth. 8 long months of traveling through space to reach this distant system. The ship hummed quietly around him as his crew worked at their stations. "Commander, we're getting close to Kepler 442, said Lisa Morgan, his science officer. She was bent over her computer screen, reading the data that flowed across it. "The energy readings are stronger now, much stronger than our probes detected." Jake nodded and walked over to her station. The numbers on her screen made no sense to him, but Lisa was the smartest person he knew. If she said something was important, it usually was. "What kind of energy are we talking about?" Jake asked. "Unknown. But it's big, Commander. Really big. And it's coming from near the star itself." Jake felt his heart beat faster. They had come here because deep space probes had picked up strange signals from this system. The signals were unlike anything humans had ever seen before. Command thought it might be important enough to send a ship to investigate. "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The front wall of the bridge lit up with an image of space. At first, Jake saw nothing but stars and the bright yellow sun at the center of the system. Then Lisa adjusted the image and Jake's mouth fell open. There, hanging in space dangerously close to the star, was a massive structure. It was clearly artificial. No natural object could be that perfectly shaped or that large. The thing was huge, easily 10 times bigger than any space station humans had ever built. "My God," whispered Pete Collins, the ship's engineer. He had come up from the engine room to see what was happening. "That thing is right next to the star. How is it not melting?" Lisa typed rapidly on her computer, scanning the structure with every sensor the Terra Nova had. "I'm reading life signs, Commander. Lots of them. Maybe 50,000 beings are alive on that station." Jake stared at the image. First contact. This was what every space explorer dreamed of and feared at the same time. They had found alien life, and it was clearly intelligent. The structure was proof of that. "Are they trying to communicate with us?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. I'm picking up signals on multiple frequencies. They seem to be distress calls." Jake's excitement turned to worry. "Distress calls?" Lisa's face grew serious as she read her instruments. "Commander, their station is in trouble. The radiation shielding is failing. According to these readings, they're slowly being cooked by their own star." Before Jake could respond, the communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in a language none of them understood, but the ship's computer began working to translate it. "Unknown vessel, this is Ambassador Zelen of the Vorthak people. We see you have arrived in our system. We greet you with hope, but also with sorrow. Our station is dying, and we with it." Jake took a deep breath. This was it. He was about to make first contact with an alien species. He walked over to the communication station and pressed the transmit button. "Ambassador Zelen, this is Commander Jake Harrison of the human vessel Terra Nova. We received your distress signal and came to investigate. How can we help you?" There was a long pause before the alien responded. When he did, his voice sounded surprised. "You are human. We have not heard of your species before, but we thank you for your offer of help. I fear, however, that there is nothing you can do. Our situation is impossible to solve." "Tell us what's wrong," Jake said. "Maybe we can figure something out." The alien's voice became sad and tired. "Our people have been mining rare materials near this star for many years. The materials are found only in the star's corona, the hottest part of its atmosphere. We built this station to harvest them, but our radiation shielding is breaking down. We cannot repair it because no living being can survive the radiation levels needed to reach the damaged areas." Lisa was studying her instruments again. She looked up at Jake with worry in her eyes. "Commander, the radiation levels near that star are incredible. Any life form would be dead in minutes if they got too close." The alien continued talking. "We have sent messages to 12 different species asking for help. All of them told us the same thing. The radiation is too strong. No known form of life can survive it long enough to make repairs. We are trapped here and our shields get weaker every day." Jake looked around at his crew. Pete Collins stood with his arms crossed, thinking hard. Dr. Amy Watson, their medical officer, had joined them on the bridge and was reading the radiation data on Lisa's screen. How long do you have? Jake asked the alien. Perhaps 2 weeks, before our shields fail completely. When that happens, we will all die very quickly. The bridge fell silent. Jake could hear the quiet hum of the ship's systems and the breathing of his crew. 50,000 intelligent beings were about to die, and there seemed to be nothing anyone could do about it. Commander, Pete said quietly, let me look at their station. Maybe there's something we're missing. Jake nodded. Ambassador Zelen, we'd like to study your situation more carefully. Can you send us technical data about your station and the repairs you need? Of course, Commander Harrison. But please do not risk your lives for us. We have accepted our fate. The radiation near the star is deadly to all life. This is simply how our story ends. As data began flowing from the alien station to the Terra, Nova, Jake stared out at the massive structure hanging near the burning star. 50,000 lives were counting down to zero, and the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy had already given up on saving them. But Jake was human, and humans had never been very good at giving up. Pete Collins stared at the technical data streaming across his computer screen. The alien station was a marvel of engineering, but its problems were clear. 3 main shield generators were failing, and they needed to be replaced with new power cells. The work would take about 6 hours and had to be done by hand because the radiation interfered with remote systems. It's not that complicated, Pete said to Commander Harrison. Someone just needs to fly a shuttle over there, swap out the power cells, and rewire the shield generators. Basic maintenance work. Dr. Amy Watson looked up from her medical scanner. Pete, the radiation levels would kill you in 3 minutes. Your cells would literally cook from the inside out. How do you know? Pete asked. Have any humans ever tried? Amy shook her head. No, but the aliens have data on hundreds of species. They all say the same thing. Instant death. Jake called for a meeting in the ship's conference room. The senior staff gathered around the metal table while the image of the dying alien station played on the wall screen. The structure looked even more desperate now, with visible damage spreading across its outer hull. Let's talk options, Jake said. What would a rescue mission look like? Lisa pulled up a diagram of the alien station. The shuttle would need to approach from the shadow side, dock here at the maintenance port. The person would then move through these corridors to reach the 3 generator rooms. Each generator needs a new power cell and some rewiring work. How long in the radiation zone? Jake asked. 6 hours minimum, Pete said. Maybe 7 if things go wrong. Dr. Watson shook her head. Jake, I've been studying the medical data the aliens sent us. The radiation levels are beyond anything we've ever recorded. It's like trying to work inside a nuclear reactor while it's running at full power. What about radiation suits? Jake asked. Our best suits would reduce exposure by maybe 60%. That still leaves radiation levels that would kill most Earth life in minutes. Jake looked around the table. His crew was smart and brave, but they weren't stupid. Everyone knew this was a suicide mission. The aliens had already told them that 12 different advanced civilizations had declared it impossible. I'll do it, Pete said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. The engineer was a big man with rough hands and a calm manner. He had grown up in Arizona working on solar panel installations in the desert before joining the space program. Pete, no, Amy said. You'll die. Maybe, maybe not. Look, I've spent my whole life working in the sun, hot desert sun all day long. My dad did the same job and his dad before him. We're used to radiation. Lisa frowned. Solar radiation is nothing compared to this, Pete. This is stellar radiation at close range. It's thousands of times stronger. How? Do we know humans can't handle it if we've never tried? Pete asked. The aliens base their data on other species. They don't know anything about humans. Jake felt something stir in his chest. Hope, maybe. Or maybe just stubborn human pride. What makes you think we might be different? Pete stood up and walked to the wall screen showing the alien station. Think about where we come from, Commander. Earth orbits pretty close to our sun. Most aliens we've met talk about how bright and hot our sun looks to them. They think Earth is a harsh place. Go on, Jake said. My hometown in Arizona gets over 100 degrees in summer. People work outside all day in that heat, in direct sunlight. I used to install solar panels on rooftops 8 hours a day, no shade. Try explaining that to an alien who thinks our sun is scary. Dr. Watson was looking at her medical data again. Pete, you might have a point. Human skin produces melanin to protect against radiation. Our DNA repair mechanisms are very advanced compared to most Earth life. We evolved under direct stellar radiation for millions of years. Exactly, Pete said. Every other species the aliens contacted probably evolved on worlds with thicker atmospheres or dimmer suns. They never needed to develop radiation resistance. Jake thought about this. Humans did seem to handle radiation better than expected. Nuclear workers could survive exposures that would kill most animals. People lived in high-altitude cities where cosmic radiation was stronger. Some humans even sought out sun exposure for health benefits. The aliens won't understand, Lisa said. They'll think we're committing suicide. Let them think that, Pete said. I volunteer for the mission. Before Jake could respond, every other person in the room stood up. I volunteer too, said Amy. Count me in, said Lisa. One by one, every crew member on the Terra Nova volunteered for what everyone believed was a suicide mission. Jake felt pride swell in his chest. This was why he loved working with humans. When things got impossible, they got stubborn. The communication system crackled to life. Ambassador Zellen's voice filled the room. Commander Harrison, we have been monitoring your discussions. Please, you must not sacrifice your people for us. The radiation will kill anyone who attempts this mission. We have accepted our fate. Jake pressed the transmit button. Ambassador Zellen, we appreciate your concern, but we'd like to study the problem more carefully. Can you tell us about the species who declared this mission impossible? Of course. The Crithari from Sigma Draconis, who evolved in deep caves. The Zenthians from Wolf 359, whose homeworld has a very dim red star. The mollusk people from Kepler 186, who live underwater and never see direct sunlight. All of them confirmed that the radiation levels would be instantly fatal. Jake looked at his crew. Cave dwellers, deep-sea creatures, beings from dim star systems. None of them had ever faced the kind of solar radiation that humans lived with, every day. Ambassador, what can you tell us about the radiation environment on their homeworlds? There was a pause. Their worlds receive very little stellar radiation, Commander. Most of them consider normal sunlight to be dangerous. Why do you ask? Jake smiled. Because humans are different. We're going to need detailed information about your station's layout. We're coming to get you. The alien's voice became urgent. Commander, please reconsider. You are describing mass suicide. No species can survive these conditions. Ambassador, Jake said, you're about to learn something new about humans. We don't know how to quit. Pete Collins stood in the shuttle bay, checking his radiation suit one more time. The suit was the best human technology could offer, but everyone knew it would not be enough. According to the alien calculations, he would receive a lethal dose of radiation within the first 5 minutes of his mission. Dr. Amy Watson attached medical sensors to Pete's chest and arms. These would monitor his vital signs and radiation exposure throughout the mission. She tried to keep her hand steady, but Pete could see she was worried. Remember, if you start feeling sick, get out of there immediately, Amy said. Don't try to be a hero. Pete smiled. Doc, if I was smart enough to not be a hero, I wouldn't be doing this job. Commander Jake Harrison walked over to them. The shuttle Endurance was fueled and ready to go. It was a small craft, built for short trips between ships. Today, it would carry Pete closer to a star than any human had ever gone. Pete, you sure about this? Jake asked. As sure as I can be about something nobody's ever tried before, Pete replied. He picked up his toolkit, the same metal box he had carried on construction sites back on Earth. The aliens sent over the technical specs. It's just basic electrical work. Replace 3 power cells, rewire some connections. I could do it blindfolded. It's not the work we're worried about, Jake said. Pete looked through the shuttle's small window at the alien station. It hung in space like a metal island in an ocean of deadly radiation. The star beyond it burned bright yellow, just like Earth's sun, but much closer. Commander, I grew up working in the Arizona desert. Temperatures over 100 degrees, direct sunlight, 8 hours a day. My skin is dark because my family has been doing this kind of work for generations. We're built for radiation. Lisa Morgan's voice came over the intercom from the bridge. Pete, I'm showing massive radiation spikes from the star. Are you sure you want to do this? Send me the numbers, Lisa. Pete's tablet lit up with radiation readings that made Amy gasp. The levels were higher than anything recorded in human space travel. By alien standards, Pete was about to fly into instant death. These readings are 400 times higher than the safety limit for most galactic species, Amy said, reading over his shoulder. Good thing I'm not most galactic species, Pete said. He climbed into the shuttle and started the engines. Amy, keep monitoring my vitals. If my heart stops, you'll know the aliens were right. Pete launched the Endurance from the Terra Nova's shuttle bay. The small craft moved smoothly toward the alien station, its path taking it closer and closer to the burning star. Through the cockpit window, Pete could see the star growing brighter and larger. On the Terra Nova, Amy watched Pete's vital signs on her medical screen. Jake and Lisa stood behind her, all three of them holding their breath. Radiation exposure is climbing, Amy reported. He's already at levels that would kill most aliens, but his heart rate is normal. Blood pressure is normal. Ambassador Zellen's voice came through the communications system. Commander Harrison, your crew member should be dead by now. Our instruments show him entering the radiation zone. He's alive and responding normally, Jake replied. Humans might be tougher than you think. Pete's voice crackled over the radio. Terra Nova, this is Endurance. I'm feeling the heat now, but nothing I can't handle. It's like working on a roof in Phoenix during summer. As Pete flew deeper into the radiation zone, alien scientists aboard the dying station gathered around their monitoring equipment. They watched in amazement as human vital signs remained stable in conditions that would have killed them instantly. This is impossible, whispered Healer Cricks, the station's chief medical officer. No living being can survive these radiation levels. Pete docked the Endurance at the station's maintenance port. The airlock cycled, and he stepped into the alien corridor. The walls around him glowed faintly from radiation, and his suit's sensors screamed warnings at him. Okay, I'm inside the station, Pete reported. Moving toward the first generator room, Amy watched his vital signs spike slightly as Pete moved through the most radioactive parts of the station. Pete, your cellular damage indicators are rising, but your repair mechanisms are keeping up. This is incredible. The alien corridors were built for beings much taller than humans, so Pete had to reach up to operate their controls. He found the first generator room and opened his toolkit. The alien technology was advanced, but the basic principles were the same as any electrical system. First power cell coming out now, Pete reported. He disconnected the old cell and lifted it out of its housing. The cell was hot to the touch, even through his gloves. Installing new cell. On the Terra Nova, Jake received a priority message from Ambassador Zellen. Commander, we are monitoring your crew member's progress. What he is doing should not be possible. How is he surviving? Jake thought about how to explain human evolution to an alien who had never seen Earth. Ambassador, humans evolved on a planet very close to a very bright star. We've been dealing with radiation our entire history as a species. But the levels he is experiencing would cook our cellular structure in seconds. Different species, different biology, Jake said. Humans are good at surviving in places other beings can't. Pete finished installing the first power cell and moved to the second generator room. His radiation exposure was now 10 times higher than any human had ever experienced and survived. But his vital signs, while elevated, remained stable. Second generator room, Pete reported. Man, it's getting warm in here. Feels like I'm inside an oven. Amy could see that Pete's body temperature was rising and his hydration levels were dropping, but his cellular repair mechanisms were working overtime, fixing radiation damage almost as fast as it occurred. Pete, you're doing something that alien science says is impossible, Amy told him. Your DNA repair systems are actually keeping up with the radiation damage. Pete chuckled as he swapped out the second power cell. Doc, My great-grandfather worked on the railroad in Death Valley. My grandfather built highways in the Nevada desert. My dad installed solar panels his whole life. Maybe we Collins boys are just too stubborn to die from a little sunshine. Aboard the alien station, Healer Crix was documenting everything. This human was rewriting their understanding of what life could survive. The radiation levels that Pete was experiencing would have killed 12 different alien species, yet he was not only alive but working efficiently. "Third generator room," Pete announced. "One more to go, and then we can all go home." Pete Collins wiped sweat from his forehead as he finished installing the third power cell. 6 hours and 23 minutes had passed since he entered the radiation zone. According to every alien database in the galaxy, he should have been dead 5 times over by now. "Last connection made," Pete reported over his radio. "All 3 generators are back online. Station shields should be at full power in about 10 minutes. Dr. Amy Watson stared at her medical readouts in disbelief. Pete had absorbed enough radiation to kill a dozen aliens, but his vital signs showed only fatigue and dehydration. His cellular repair systems had worked non-stop to fix damage as it happened. "Pete, your body is doing something that alien medical science says is impossible," Amy told him. "You're repairing radiation damage in real time." On the alien station, Healer Crix gathered his medical team around their monitoring equipment. They had been watching Pete's biological functions for over 6 hours, documenting everything. The data would change their understanding of life itself. "His skin cells are producing more protective pigments as we watch," Crix reported to Ambassador Zelen. "His DNA repair enzymes are working at rates we have never seen in any species. This human is adapting to the radiation as he is exposed to it." Ambassador Zelen contacted the Terra Nova directly. "Commander Harrison, we must speak with your medical officer immediately. What we are witnessing challenges everything we know about biology." Jake patched the communication through to Dr. Watson. "Doctor, please explain how your species can survive in conditions that kill all other known life forms." Amy had been thinking about this question for hours. "Ambassador, humans evolved on a planet that receives intense solar radiation. Our homeworld orbits closer to its star than most inhabited planets in the galaxy. We had to develop defenses, or we would have gone extinct millions of years ago. But surely your planet has atmospheric protection." "Some, but not enough. Humans routinely expose themselves to direct stellar radiation for hours at a time. We call it sunbathing. We actually seek out radiation exposure for health benefits." There was a long silence from the alien station. Finally, Healer Crix spoke. "You deliberately expose yourselves to stellar radiation for pleasure?" "And for work," Amy continued. "Pete grew up in one of Earth's desert regions. Surface temperatures over 40 degrees Celsius, direct sunlight, low humidity. He worked outside in these conditions 8 hours a day for years." Pete's voice crackled over the radio as he made his way back to the shuttle. "Doc, don't forget to mention that I used to go camping in Death Valley for fun. Nothing like a weekend in 50-degree heat to build character." The alien medical team fell silent. To beings who considered normal sunlight dangerous, Pete's description of his life sounded like a catalog of torture methods. "Your species lives in what we would consider extreme hazard zones," Crix said slowly. "How is this possible?" Amy pulled up genetic data on her computer. "Our melanin production increases with radiation exposure. Our skin literally gets darker to protect us. Our DNA has multiple repair pathways that work constantly to fix radiation damage, and our cellular structure is much more resistant to heat and energy damage than most species." Pete reached his shuttle and began the journey back to the Terra Nova. As he flew away from the alien station, everyone could see the massive structure's shields glowing brightly. The 3 generators were working perfectly, and 50,000 alien lives were no longer in danger. "Endurance to Terra Nova," Pete reported. "Mission complete. Station shields are at full power. All systems green, and I feel like I could use a cold beer and a shower." Jake smiled as he watched Pete's shuttle approach. "Outstanding work, Pete. How do you feel?" "Tired, hot, and thirsty. Kind of like after a long day installing panels on warehouse roofs back home. Nothing a good night's sleep won't fix." Dr. Watson was amazed by Pete's condition. His radiation exposure levels were off the charts, but his body was already beginning to repair itself. Pete, you've absorbed more radiation than anyone in human history, and you're talking like you just finished a normal workday. Maybe that's because for a human this was a normal workday, Pete replied. Just with better pay and a nicer view. As Pete docked with the Terra Nova, Ambassador Zelen requested permission to send a medical team to examine him. The aliens could not believe that any being could survive what Pete had just endured. We must understand how this is possible, Zelen explained. Our medical databases contain information on over 300 species. None of them could survive even 1% of the radiation exposure your crew member has experienced. Jake agreed to the examination. An hour later, 3 alien medical specialists arrived on the Terra Nova in environment suits that protected them from the ship's normal lighting. To them, even the Terra Nova's interior was uncomfortably bright. Healer Crix examined Pete with equipment that could analyze biological functions at the molecular level. What he found changed his understanding of evolution forever. Commander Harrison, Crix reported, this human cellular structure is unlike anything in our databases. His skin produces protective compounds we have never seen. His DNA repair mechanisms work at speeds that should be impossible, and his body temperature regulation allows him to function in conditions that would cook most life forms. Pete sat patiently as the aliens ran their tests. Doc, you're making me sound like some kind of superhero. I'm just a guy who grew up working in the sun. That is exactly the point, Crick said. You grew up in conditions that would kill our species instantly. Your sun would blind us, your heat would cook us, and your radiation would destroy our cellular structure in minutes. Yet you call these conditions normal. Amy shared more data about human biology with the fascinated aliens. She explained how humans lived at high altitudes where cosmic radiation was stronger, how they worked in polar regions with reflected solar radiation, and how they had even survived nuclear accidents that would have wiped out most species. Your species has biological advantages that make you uniquely suited for high radiation environments, Crix concluded. What you consider harsh living conditions, we would classify as completely uninhabitable death zones, Pete chuckled. Wait, until you hear about the guys who work on oil rigs in the North Sea, or the folks who fight forest fires, or the people who climb mountains where the air is too thin to breathe. Humans are pretty good at living in places that try to kill us. The alien medical team spent hours documenting human biology, taking notes on everything from Pete's melanin production to his advanced DNA repair systems. When they finally finished, Healer Crix made a formal statement. Pete Collins has survived radiation exposure that our science declared impossible. He has done this not through technology or special equipment, but through biological adaptations that his species developed naturally. We are witnessing proof that life can evolve defenses beyond our current understanding. Pete stood up and stretched. All I know is that I'm ready for that shower and beer now. And maybe a nap. Saving 50,000 aliens is harder work than it looks. 2 weeks after the rescue mission, Pete Collins felt completely normal. Dr. Amy Watson had run every medical test she could think of, and the results were clear. Pete showed no permanent damage from his radiation exposure. His body had repaired itself completely. It's like the mission never happened, Amy told Commander Jake Harrison as they reviewed Pete's latest test results. His cellular structure is back to normal. Actually, it might be stronger than before. Jake looked out at the alien station, which now glowed with healthy shield energy. 50,000 Vorthak were alive because one human had done something there science said was impossible. Ambassador Zelen requested a final meeting aboard the Terra Nova before the human ship departed. He arrived with Healer Crix and 3 other Vorthak officials, all wearing protective suits against the ship's normal lighting. Commander Harrison, we have sent our medical findings to the Galactic Science Council, Zelen announced. The response has been extraordinary. 17 different civilizations have requested immediate contact with humanity. Jake raised an eyebrow. 17? What do they want? Your help, Zelen replied. There are many projects throughout the galaxy that require work in high radiation environments. Solar energy collection, stellar mining, radiation cleanup operations. Until now, these projects were considered impossible because no known species could survive the conditions. Healer Crick stepped forward with a data tablet. Commander, we have documented your species' biological capabilities. Human radiation resistance is beyond anything in our medical databases. You have opened up possibilities we never imagined. Pete Collins joined the meeting looking relaxed and healthy. He had spent the morning helping Lisa Morgan analyze alien technology, acting like his near-death experience was just another day at the office. Pete, Zelen said, you have become famous throughout known space. The Galactic Council has created a new classification for radiation environments. They are calling them Collins-class zones after you. Pete laughed. That's nice, but I was just doing my job. Any human could have done the same thing. That is exactly what makes your species so remarkable, Crick said. You do not see your abilities as special. To you, surviving in deadly radiation is normal. To the rest of the galaxy, it is miraculous. Jake leaned forward. What kind of projects are these other civilizations working on? Zelen activated a holographic display showing various alien installations. The Andromedans want to build energy collectors around their star, but the radiation kills their workers. The Centauri Republic needs to clean up radiation spills from old mining operations. The Vegan Confederation has been trying to harvest rare isotopes from stellar coronas for decades. All of these projects require someone to work in radiation levels that would instantly kill any known species, Crix added. Except humans. Amy studied the radiation measurements for each project. These levels are high, but not as extreme as what Pete experienced. Most humans could probably handle these environments with basic protective equipment. We would like to propose a formal alliance, Zelon said. The Vorthak have advanced faster than light technology, gravitational manipulation, and energy weapons that your species lacks. In exchange, humans could provide services for radiation zone operations throughout the galaxy. Jake looked at his crew. This was bigger than first contact. This was humanity finding its place in galactic civilization, and that place was in the most dangerous environments in the universe. There's something else, Zelen continued. Our preliminary surveys suggest that Earth-type planets are much rarer than we thought. Most inhabited worlds have thick atmospheres and dim stars. Planets with conditions like Earth are considered extremely hostile by galactic standards. Pete grinned. So you're saying humans evolved in hell, and now you want to hire us to work in other versions of hell? That is a surprisingly accurate summary, Crix replied seriously. Over the following days, messages poured in from across the galaxy. The news of human radiation resistance had spread faster than anyone expected. Alien civilizations that had never communicated with each other were suddenly comparing notes about humanity. Lisa Morgan analyzed the incoming requests. Jake, we're getting job offers from species we've never heard of. Solar panel installation on Mercury-type worlds, radiation mapping in neutron star systems, emergency repairs on fusion reactors. What's the pay like? Pete asked with a smile. According to these offers, humans would be the highest-paid workers in the galaxy, Lisa replied. Some of these civilizations are offering technology worth more than Earth's entire economy. Doctor, Watson received detailed medical requests from alien hospitals. They want to study human DNA repair mechanisms. Apparently, our cellular biology could revolutionize medicine for dozens of species. Jake made his decision. Ambassador Zelen, humanity accepts your alliance proposal. We'll establish formal diplomatic relations and begin cultural exchange programs. Excellent, Zelen replied. We have prepared detailed star charts showing radiation hazard zones throughout local space. These areas have been considered dead zones for thousands of years. With human assistance, they could become the most productive regions in the galaxy. As the Terra Nova prepared to return to Earth, Pete Collins stood in the observation deck looking out at the alien station. In just 2 weeks, he had gone from being a ship's engineer to being the most famous human in galactic history. Amy joined him at the window. How does it feel to be the man who proved humans are tougher than aliens thought? Pete shrugged. Honestly, I'm more proud of the fact that we saved 50,000 lives. The rest is just publicity. The galaxy will never look at humans the same way again, Amy said. Good. Maybe they'll stop thinking Earth is such a nice, safe place to visit. Commander Harrison's voice came over the ship's intercom. "All hands, prepare for departure. We're heading home with news that will change everything." As the Terra Nova jumped to faster-than-light speed, it carried more than just its crew. It carried proof that humanity's harsh evolutionary environment had given them abilities that were literally priceless among the stars. Back on the Vorthak station, Ambassador Zelen composed his final report to the Galactic Council. "We have encountered a species that evolved in conditions we consider uninhabitable. Their sun did not harm them. Instead, it made them stronger. We were speechless not from fear, but from wonder at the incredible diversity of life in our universe." Pete. Collins had become the first human to be honored by an alien civilization, receiving the Vorthak Medal of Impossible Courage. But more importantly, he had opened the door for humanity to take its place among the stars, not as the weakest species in the galaxy, but as the only one tough enough to work where others feared to go. The rescue mission was over, but humanity's real adventure among the stars was just beginning. And it would all happen in places where the radiation would cook most aliens alive, but where humans would just call it another day at the office.